accounts expose the real terrors that some earthlings went through when they saw something they shouldn't have or ended up somewhere. They didn't know where they were. What about fire in the sky is a good... did you? That's a good point, and I'm going to bring up California in a bit. Because it's very significant in the USOs, which is unidentified submersible objects. It is fascinating, let me tell you what, and it makes so much sense. Or ended up with a passenger that shouldn't have been riding shotgun in their car. As bizarre it might seem to encounter an extraterrestrial light show, thousands of feet in the air, or just to vanish and show up in your backyard months later, think it was only a couple of hours. These experiences, that they may not be as famous as Roswell and other Area 51s, are even more chilling on account of them haunting the memories of people who never worked for the FBI or CIA. You might expect a bizarre flash of something when you've been searching for it since the Clinton era. Not so when you're trying to drive home after work without your engine breaking down. An amateur astronomer observed something beyond imagination, eyeing a bizarre white flash that was definitely not of this planet. Heat lightning would have been the assumption, but the night was clear and cloudless with no forecasted storms. Whatever it was briefly lit up the entire night sky with an otherworldly blaze, and it tinged the surrounding air. The air felt heavier, with a metallic taste in your mouth. An unexpected flash of red exploded in the darkness. When it seemed things couldn't get weirder, the light show began. And alternating white and red flashes appeared, and someone out there must have been having fun twisting human brains, because a third flash soon joined the production. It was almost as if they were being beamed to the sky as some sort of mysterious communication mode. Then came the noise that silenced everything. Frogs stopped croaking, crickets ceased their chirping, the night went deathly silent at the sinister whirring until every dog in the neighborhood started barking like it was the apocalypse. The whirring kept rising in volume as the flashes became more. The alien fireworks have never been explained, but the astronomer and a legion of K9 witnesses remain forever spooked. And that was where... Okay. Sometimes the monsters aren't under your bed, but outside under your window. Yes, USOs. That is such a fascinating subject. I'm looking forward to that discussion. The monsters became real in 2009 for an anonymous witness who only wanted to relax with headphones on when an unearthly sound cut through the edgy guitars and haunted vocals. It was a type of high-pitched electronic sound that assaults your ears, except this wasn't caused by a CD. Whatever the source of the noise was kept getting louder and bathed the entire room in an ectoplasmic green light. This is the part when that sinking feeling that warns you not to look out the window, but you do anyway, because you feel a presence. The presence was an enormous airborne vessel, a triangular metal thing that doesn't typically take off from any human airport, and was pulsing with orbs of the same eerie green light. As if the fear factor wasn't enough, the thing shook the house violently before floating off into the dark unknown. The event occurred in Northeast Ohio, which is known to be a hotbed of paranormal activity. And why everything freaky comes out to play is still beyond science, of course. So that was in northeastern Ohio, where I live, so yay for us. So there we go. What about, roadside attractions late at night? This is Wisconsin resident William Bozak encountered in 1974 while driving home after dark. It wasn't a pothole. Foggy nights, of course, can be deceptive. We've had a few doozies around here lately. This weather, wow. Especially when it comes to separating those murky tendrils from being something supernatural. But what Bozak saw as he slowed down towards a strange roadside object defies explanation. While the brightness of his headlights seemed to vaporize the bottom half of whatever it was, that which he was able to see would have sent anybody into the middle of the night screaming. Staring through an enormous glass dome was Chewbacca in spandex. Oh, here we go. Or at least it would have made a killer backup for Chewie. This hairy humanoid in a skin-tight bodysuit had ears protruding from the top of its head and terrific eyes that bulged from a face that could have been a mashup of human and bovine DNA. It looked as if it had been thrown its arms up in surrender. Just one eyeful of this 10-foot monster was enough to make Bozak frantically step on the accelerator. But to his horror, the lights inside his car went dark, and a suspicious noise suggested the engine was missing. He was a former UFO skeptic, who now believes it was an understatement. They say that is one of the signs you're driving down a road or, dark at night or whatever, and your stuff starts to go haywire, your car, or it dies for no apparent reason, and then you see something. And then after it leaves, or whatever the case is, you get in your car and go. Can you imagine seeing something like that driving home in the night? Yeah, no. I would definitely run off screaming. How about some glow-in-the-dark hitchhikers? Oh, we could deal with that, right? Orbs of an unexplained origin seem to be a common thread in the UFO sightings, but this one takes it to a whole new level. A security officer was driving home, and this was in South Dakota, in 2011. Hundreds of mysterious red lights started to appear and circle the moving car like some sort of alien halo. The driver thought he was still doing 60. The car was actually decelerating with absolutely no explanations. Then the lights turned on, vanished, and the car sped up. That's what we were talking about, right? And just as unexplained as the vanishing light halo was what appeared in its absence. Yeah, it became strange at the side of the road. The thing was on the car. It was glowing, translucent life form with gangly arms that stretched right through the roof of the officer's vehicle. This was an officer in South Dakota. Spindly fingers ran down his back and left a burning sensation. But there was more where that came from. By the curb was another glowing creature that can only be described as the evil version of Hoggle from Labyrinth. And the thing made itself a passenger until it sensed more humans. And then they vanished. Yeah, isn't it though? Where is he? Yeah, where's Steven at? So there's all types of things going on. I'll give you one more, and then we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with USOs. And I'll tell you what, I hope you find it as fascinating as I did, because once I watched some of these documentaries on USOs, which is I am thoroughly fascinated by that. I really am, because it makes so much sense. But this is called When the Dead Aren't Dead. In the 1960s, this was in Ethiopia. A boy named Gabriel was running around the backyard with his friend when he disappeared, just like that. He materialized 6 months later, just like that. Everyone thought Gabriel was dead and could be assured they were not seeing a ghost. He recounted a story that wouldn't have been out of place on the Twilight Zone. Gabriel had been led into a glowing, windowless white room by benevolent humanoid creatures. Inside were child abductees from all over the planet Earth. And how they could understand each other was a mystery. With the press a button on the wall, a bed instantly appeared. which makes you wonder how long some of those kids have been on board. Before Gabriel knew it, he found himself standing in a sparkling city surrounded by supernatural skyscrapers and flying cars. Now, it might not be, maybe it was a portal to a parallel universe, another dimension, instead of a UFO, right? Flying cars, beings that appeared both human and alien, walked the streets. The boy was then taken to an impossibly tall building by one of the captors and showed to a room in which he could push any button and be transported to any number of places. When he was told he needed to stay a while, he had no exactly idea how long a while would be. He claimed it felt just like a couple of hours. And this is why you never go off with strangers, people. Did you know the Pentagon has been secretly working on a quote, black money UFO program? What was considered science fiction is now fact, which we've known. There was a couple mysterious UFO sightings before Roswell, of course. But the strange sightings in the sky are nothing new, right? Bring up any alien encounter, and what is it one of the first things you think of? It's Roswell, of course. So, and of course, the U.S. Army claimed it was a weather balloon. Then a nuclear test monitoring device. Yeah. UFO enthusiasts, of course, believe both stories were cover-ups, which we know. But while the Roswell crash is arguably the best-known UFO story in history, it's far from the first. The Tully Papyrus. The story of the Tully Papyrus is a strange one. The document was reportedly among the papers left behind by Alberto Tully, director of the Vatican's Egyptian Museum. According to the legend, it was originally found by Tully and his brother, a Vatican priest, during a visit to Cairo. This was in 1934. Hi, Michelle. Yeah, you got it. Don't you believe all the classified documents they put out? Yeah, no. It's like 12 million pages of lawyer speak, if you ask me. Anyway, this was in 1934. They couldn't afford to purchase the papyrus, so they made a copy. And supposedly the document described a strange event witnessed by the pharaoh Thutmose III in the year 22. And part of it says, the scribes of the House of Lights noticed a circle of fire that was coming from the sky. From the mouth emitted a foul breath. It had no head. Its body was 1 rod long and 1 rod wide. It had no voice. More of the discs kept appearing. Then eventually a whole group of them vanished to the south, dropping a rain of fish and birds in their wake. Close encounter in Rome. In 74 BC, the Roman historian described reports from eyewitnesses in 2 opposing armies to the western part of what is now Turkey. Their battle was interrupted by a bizarre sight. Presently, as they were on the point of joining battle, with no apparent change of weather, but all of a sudden the sky burst asunder, and a huge flame-like body was seen to fall between the 2 armies. In shape, it was most like a wine jar, and in color like molten silver. Both sides were astonished at the sight and separated. NASA astrophysicist Richard Stothers wrote in his paper examining ancient UFOs that the phenomenon could have been an alien craft. But it could have been a meteorite. Yeah, who knows? Although meteorites are generally black, and there was no mention in any other papers or anything about meteors or anything, just that one. Battles in the sky above medieval Europe. two sightings, 5 years, and only 200 miles apart in Germany and Switzerland.